Okay, so I have been working on learning Adobe Character Animator, and so far, what I've learned how to do is design a puppet by using layers for each part of the character in Photoshop. I learned what to label each layer in order for Adobe Character Animator to understand what each part does by default. I learned how to import the character into Adobe Character Animator. I learned how to add the character into a scene. I learned how to resize the character to fit the scene screen. I learned how to pin down the character so that it doesn't flop around when I move. I also learned how to record a piece. I learned how to zoom into the part that is recorded in order to edit mouth syllables, and I learned how to make her arms dangle. Some of the challenges that I've run into is this is a beta program, so sometimes it's a little temperamental and can be a little bit frustrating, but once all the kinks are out of this program, it's going to be amazing, and I love it so much when it is working correctly. So some of the challenges that I have run into, because I'm pretty familiar with Photoshop, and I didn't even think about the opacity of things and how they would act. Because I like to layer things up. So like if you sketch something out in Photoshop and then you paint over top of it to make a nice cool effect, sometimes you have to make certain parts of it that you weren't expecting to make more opaque than what they are, or else you'll be able to see through the body parts, like her arms. And you can see right through her arms if you drag them over. I'll show you here. Like if you drag her arm over her dress, you see how you can see right through it. So I need to go back into Photoshop and make her arms a little bit more opaque. Another challenge that I ran into is, for some reason, when I was pinning down different parts of her, I pinned down her feet so she wouldn't wobble. Like she's wobbling right now because I had to redo her. But it made her feet kind of, the pink part of her shoe kind of jet up like it was a leg, like a weird arm coming out of her leg. I don't know, it was really strange. And I don't know what caused that to happen, so I'm going to have to investigate that a little bit more with the set points in the character as well. So I'm going to show you around how this works, basically. So you can use Illustrator if you're familiar with Illustrator, but I don't have much of a background in illustration or this sort of thing, really. I'm more of a Photoshop type person. I like to do collage work. So I used Photoshop to make the different layers of the puppet. And when you make the puppet, you actually have to what's the word? You have to actually make each part of it on a different layer. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Photoshop here so I can show you the parts. I accidentally closed it before I started making the video. But what's interesting is you make different groups of layers. You make a group of layers for the body, and then you make a group of layers for the face. So, this is the project that I have here, and you notice how there's little folders here for each of the groups. And I have a group for the head. There's a subgroup under the head for the mouth with all the different sounds that she can make. Like for instance, if she's making the sound, we'll go ahead and make that visible. It's going to look like that. If she's doing the S sound, it's going to look like that. The R sound, and so on. The left eyebrow, the right eyebrow, each and every little piece, basically. The left eye, you have to group together. The right eye, you have to group together. And then, of course, we have a group for the body. And it was really difficult getting used to using Photoshop in this kind of way. I mean, I've used layers and stuff before, but normally as I go, I combine the layers, so it was really difficult for me to get used to not combining my layers as I went. That was a little bit frustrating for me. So if we go into a Character Animator, what's really cool is you can record what you do. So let's say I wanted to record something right now. I'm going to go ahead and delete that there. Delete these ones, and we will record something new. Oh, I just accidentally deleted something I didn't want to delete. Okay, so we want to delete this. Okay, so I'm going to rewind it to the beginning. Oops. And then we're going to hit record. So I am recording a recording for my puppet. Oh. And then we're going to... Oh, no. Sorry about that. That would have been crazy sounding. Okay. So we'll go back to the beginning. Uh-oh. I have to delete all these ones again. Hard to use a computer and a microphone at the same time. Okay, so there we go. Let's go ahead and record something. I am Tiffany's puppet. Okay, so that's really cool. So it records the audio take right here, the camera input, like where I'm moving my eyes to, and then it also records the audio lip sync there down at the bottom, the biseams. So you see the little different syllables down there. And it doesn't look like that normally when you record it. I have mine like expanded. There's a little button down here where you can expand it. But let's say that she's saying a word where she shouldn't use the ah shape or something. You can just go down here and delete it. So then the ah shape's not there anymore. And you can edit it, you can change it however you want. When you're actually setting up the puppet in here and you import your file, you can just import just a plain old Photoshop file, as you can see here. That's fine. And then you just click add to new scene, and then you just the puppet will be in the scene. And then you can resize the puppet if it's not the right size by going to transform down in the right hand corner and then scaling the puppet. For the puppet, if you click on the puppet, it has different points on it to kind of tell the program where everything is. So, I mean, like if you don't want, if you tell it that something is where it's not supposed to be, it's going to mess it up. But what's really cool about this too is you can set lines, kind of like a bone structure for her, so that when you move her arm, it doesn't bend where it's not supposed to. It'll just bend right here at the fixed elbow point, you know. So that's really nice to do. And it's just this little line button down here. And then in order to like set little fixed points on it, you just click on the pin tool And so like if I wanted to click here, I could click, you know, that's her face or something. Well, not really, but what is this? That should not be there. So we're going to delete it. Okay. So, so like this one, for instance, this fixed point, it is assigned to the left elbow and it's put as fixed. Now I could change it to dangle if I wanted to too, and then we can go check it out in the scene and see what it does now. So now when you move, it's not really dangling her arm that much, but you can do this with her. See how her arm is not bending except for at the elbow, which is really neat. So you could, when you're recording the scene, you could take your mouse and you could have her wave if you want. You could have her wave over here. It's really cool, and I think that it would be great to use this as a way to maybe teach a little lesson on the ukulele. So, and have things like little chord chart diagrams in the background and stuff for the learners. So I'm excited about it.